The University of Nevada women's volleyball team made headlines when they forfeited their match against San Jose State University. This unexpected decision sent shockwaves through the sporting world, leaving fans and analysts alike in disbelief. It ignited a firestorm of debate about transgender athletes' participation in women's sports, a topic that has been simmering for years. The forfeit marked a pivotal moment in the ongoing national conversation, bringing the issue to the forefront of public discourse. It brought the issue of trans inclusion to the forefront, forcing many to confront their own beliefs and biases. The forfeit wasn't just about a single game, it was a statement, a reflection of the broader societal tensions. It represented a clash between deeply held beliefs, with passionate arguments on both sides. On one side were those who champion the rights of transgender athletes to compete according to their gender identity, advocating for inclusivity and equality. On the other side were those who believe that such inclusion threatens the integrity and fairness of women's sports, arguing that biological differences can create an uneven playing field. The Nevada forfeit became a microcosm of this larger societal struggle, encapsulating the complexities and emotions involved. The decision to forfeit was not taken lightly. It was the result of intense deliberations and heartfelt discussions among the players and coaching staff. It was a culmination of factors, including the concerns of the Nevada players and the legal complexities surrounding the issue. The team felt they had no other choice. The university found itself caught in the crosshairs of a contentious debate with no easy answers, facing pressure from all sides. The forfeit served as a stark reminder of the challenges faced by institutions grappling with trans inclusion in the realm of college athletics. It highlighted the need for clear policies and guidelines. The fallout from the Nevada forfeit was immediate and far-reaching. It dominated headlines and social media discussions. It sparked outrage and support in equal measure, with people taking to the streets and online platforms to voice their opinions. It ignited discussions about fairness, equality, and the very definition of what it means to be a woman in the world of sports. Experts and activists weighed in, each bringing their own perspectives. The forfeit became a catalyst for change, forcing a national reckoning on the issue of trans inclusion in athletics. It underscored the urgent need for dialogue and understanding in navigating this complex issue. The controversy surrounding the Nevada forfeit is not an isolated incident. It has become a focal point in a much broader and heated discussion that is sweeping across the nation. It is part of a larger national debate about the inclusion of transgender athletes in women's sports. This debate touches on fundamental questions about identity, fairness, and the very nature of competitive sports. This issue has become a political and social lightning rod, dividing communities and sparking passionate arguments on both sides. Public forums, social media, and even legislative bodies have become battlegrounds for this contentious issue. At the heart of the debate is the question of fairness. What does it mean to have a level playing field, and how can it be achieved in a way that respects all athletes? Opponents of trans inclusion argue that transgender women have an unfair advantage over cisgender women due to physical characteristics associated with male puberty, such as increased muscle mass and bone density. They believe these advantages can overshadow the hard work and dedication of cisgender female athletes. They contend that allowing transgender women to compete in women's sports undermines the level playing field and puts cisgender women at a disadvantage. This perspective is often supported by those who feel that the integrity of women's sports is at stake. Proponents of trans inclusion counter that transgender women are women and should have the same rights and opportunities as cisgender women, including the right to participate in sports according to their gender identity. They emphasize the importance of inclusivity and equal rights. They argue that excluding transgender women from women's sports is discriminatory and harmful, denying them the physical, social, and emotional benefits of athletic participation. For many, sports are a vital part of personal development and community building. The debate over trans inclusion is often framed as a zero-sum game, with one side's gain seen as the other side's loss. This binary perspective can make finding common ground seem impossible. However, many advocates for transgender rights believe that it is possible to create a sporting landscape that is both inclusive and fair, where all athletes can compete at their best without fear of discrimination or prejudice. They envision a future where sports can be a unifying force rather than a divisive one. Finding this balance remains a significant challenge. It requires thoughtful dialogue, scientific research, and a commitment to fairness and equality for all athletes. The path forward is complex, but the goal is a sporting world where everyone has a place. The University of Nevada, in the wake of the forfeit, found itself at the center of a maelstrom. The decision to forfeit a game is never taken lightly, and in this case, it was a culmination of various pressures and concerns. The decision to forfeit was driven by a confluence of factors, primarily the concerns raised by the Nevada players. These athletes, who dedicate countless hours to their sport, found themselves grappling with issues far beyond the volleyball court, and the intricate legal web surrounding the issue of trans inclusion in athletics. This legal landscape is complex, involving federal, state, and institutional policies that often intersect and sometimes conflict. The players, though their specific concerns weren't publicly detailed, were thrust into a situation fraught with tension. They had to navigate their own beliefs, the expectations of their teammates, and the broader societal implications of their actions. They were essentially caught between their personal beliefs and the university's obligation to navigate the legal and social complexities of the situation. This created a challenging environment where every decision was scrutinized and weighed heavily. Their decision to forfeit, while controversial, underscored the deeply personal nature of this debate. It highlighted the emotional and psychological toll such decisions can take on student athletes. Legally, the university had to tread carefully. The administration was aware that any misstep could lead to significant legal challenges and public backlash. Navigating the murky waters of Title IX, which prohibits sex-based discrimination in education programs, including athletics, presented a significant challenge. Title IX is a cornerstone of educational equity, but its application in cases of trans inclusion is still evolving. The university had to weigh its commitment to providing an inclusive environment for all students against potential legal ramifications. This balancing act required careful consideration of the rights and needs of all students involved. The forfeit highlighted the difficult position many universities find themselves in as they try to balance competing interests and uphold both the letter and the spirit of the law. It brought to light the need for more comprehensive policies and clearer guidelines. It underscored the need for clear, consistent guidelines from governing bodies like the NCAA to help institutions navigate these complex issues. Without such guidance, universities are left to interpret and implement policies on their own, often leading to confusion and conflict. The lack of such clarity only served to exacerbate the situation. As universities strive to create fair and inclusive environments, the need for definitive direction and support from higher authorities becomes increasingly critical. Section 4. Universities respond statements from Nevada and San Jose State. The forfeit ignited a firestorm of responses from both universities involved.
Nevada, facing intense scrutiny, released a statement acknowledging the complexity of the situation and emphasizing their commitment to both inclusivity and fair competition. We reiterate our support for our student athletes while acknowledging the difficult decision we faced.
San Jose State University, on the other side of the net, expressed disappointment at the forfeit. We emphasize our commitment to creating a welcoming and inclusive environment for all student athletes, regardless of gender identity. Our transgender athlete met all eligibility requirements set forth by the NCAA, and we support her right to compete.
The divergent statements from the two universities underscored the deep divisions surrounding trans inclusion in sports. They highlighted the lack of consensus on how to balance the rights of transgender athletes with the concerns of cisgender athletes. The forfeit became a public relations challenge for both institutions, forcing them to defend their actions and articulate their stance on a highly sensitive issue. Section 5. Voices of dissent, activists, and the call for a press conference. The Nevada forfeit became a rallying cry for activists on both sides of the trans inclusion debate. Those opposed to the inclusion of transgender women in women's sports applauded the Nevada players for taking a stand, hailing them as heroes for protecting the integrity of women's sports. They used the forfeit as a platform to amplify their message and demand stricter regulations on trans athletes' participation. Conversely, LGBTQ+ advocates and allies condemned the forfeit, denouncing it as a discriminatory act that perpetuated harmful stereotypes about transgender people. They argued that the forfeit sent a dangerous message that transgender athletes are not welcome in women's sports and called for greater protection of trans athletes' rights. In the aftermath of the forfeit, a coalition of LGBTQ+ advocacy groups and allies announced a press conference to address the controversy. They vowed to challenge the narrative being pushed by opponents of trans inclusion and to highlight the harmful consequences of excluding transgender athletes from sports. The press conference promised to be a pivotal moment in the ongoing battle for trans rights in athletics.